Well, this is part three. Part three of why game is a threat to our values of our society. Game, again, being the ability for a man to seduce a woman, learning techniques to seduce a woman. Now, I need some comments on this. Anybody watch this? Give me a comment on this. What do you think about this? Leave me a comment, like, subscribe to the channel. It's been said that if you want to be attractive to a woman, you need to have money, muscles, and game. And the third one, game, being the most important if you don't have money or muscles, if you learn game. I haven't ever learned game. I don't know. I had to rely on my ability to, in the Red Green show, they say, if the women don't find you handsome, at least they'll find you handy. So I had to just rely on my handiness skills, and I got a woman, so that's good. That's good. Anyway, though, back to the show here. Game. Why game is a threat to our values? Pastor Dalrock writes that chivalry keeps our concepts of male and female virtue in harmony. He says, like we talked about in part 1 and 2, chivalry is what converts feminist demands into concrete action. But chivalry is also the way we reconcile concepts of male and female virtue. So we've talked about that in the first two, part 1 and part 2. Our unstated assumption is that being chivalrous is sexy. This is why game is such a corrosive concept in our society. Game teaches that chivalry is an attraction killer and that women are instead attracted to a host of other traits that are neutral at best. So game teaches don't be chivalrous because women are not attracted to a man who is chivalrous, who puts women on a pedestal, who treats them as the superiors, and then does all the things that goes along with that. I think we all know classic chivalry. Game teaches don't do that. That doesn't attract a woman. There are other ways to attract a woman, which he says are neutral at best, these ways. He says the problem we have is that young men now are able to see for themselves that game works. Game really works. This is true even though most men are not able to master game in practice. I would be one of those men because, as I was told in high school, I have no game. He says the men who fail at seduction are able to observe the men who succeed, and it is painfully obvious that chivalry really is an attraction killer. If you practice chivalry, that is an attraction killer. All of this is made worse by the fact that not only are young men highly motivated to have sex, but our society is ordered around the sacred belief that being able to seduce women is the mark of virtue in a man. Even if a man rejects game on the grounds that premarital sex is immoral, which it is, that's what the Bible clearly states, he still has to grapple with the fact that sexiness is the mark of male virtue in our society. I think he's right when Pastor Dalrock writes, I think he's right about that. He says even Christians believe this. As Dr. Al Mohler, who was president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, I think he was the president of the Southern Baptist Convention too for a while, he explains, this is Pastor Dr. Al Mohler, he says, put most bluntly, I believe God means for a man to be civilized, directed, and stimulated towards marital faithfulness by the fact that his wife will freely give herself to him sexually only when he presents himself as worthy of her attention and desire. Now that is chivalry in a nutshell. That is, he must be attractive to her, and then he has earned the right to sex with her. That's what he's saying. So he says the threat that game poses is not that large groups of men will learn how to put it into practice, even though men have and will. So he's saying that's not the threat. He says the threat comes from its assault on young men's belief that chivalry is sexy and therefore chivalry is virtuous. Man, that's an interesting connection there. It says even worse, a young man doesn't even have to hear the word game or directly study its theories to be at risk of concluding that chivalry isn't sexy. Chivalry is not really how you get a woman. This is a message that is slowly making its way through the culture. Now, I need some comments on this. Anybody watching this, give me a comment on this. What do you think about this? Leave me a comment, like, subscribe to the channel. But do you think that this message that chivalry doesn't work is that message slowly making its way through the culture? He's saying that game is so corrosive to our moral order because the normal methods to return to course only make the corrosion worse. Lectures on the importance of chivalry will be met with ridicule since chivalry is unsexy. Lecturing men to be unsexy for the sake of virtue will likewise fail because our very definition of male virtue is sexiness. Okay, so he's saying that what'll happen is if men say, I don't want to be chivalrous because it just doesn't work in attracting a woman, then probably more so in the church than anywhere else, they'll get lectured that no, you need to be chivalrous, put women on a pedestal, blah, 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 you need to do all these things, yada, 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 yada. And then they'll say, no, because it doesn't work, and for me to attract a woman means that I'm a virtuous man. To be a good man means that I can attract a woman. And if I can't attract a woman, I'm kind of a worthless man. Well, chivalry doesn't attract a woman, so why would I pursue that? Then this is interesting stuff. Pastor Dalrock, right? It gets worse from here because as game dissolves the moral case for chivalry, it is dissolving the foundation for sustaining feminism in practice. This in turn jeopardizes the virtue of women by making it harder for women to be true to themselves. Without chivalry converting feminist theory into practice, millions of women will find it harder and harder to stop trying to be good girls and adopt a no right, no wrong, no rules for me attitude. That's what he wrote about when I put in part 2 about Elsa's song being what all the young girls are taught. No right, no wrong, no rules for me, I'm free, I gotta let it go. He says, game is destroying our most cherished values, our very concept of virtue. As a Christian, all I can say is this destruction can't happen quick enough. Pastor Dalrock writes here. So he's saying it's destroying virtue in men because they see that chivalry doesn't work, and therefore to be a virtuous man is not the path of being chivalrous. It's to be virtuous in our society as a man, you must be able to attract a woman. Otherwise, you're kind of a worthless man. And he said, and on the flip side of that, virtue in a woman is being able to go deep within yourself and understand which man is truly worth, because you know deep inside which man is truly good. But game short circuits that because you can seduce a woman with the techniques of game. This is interesting stuff. Again, give me a comment. I want to know what you guys think about this. Like, is this true, or what's going on here with this concept of game, which I don't possess. Anyway, well, we got to get this figured out. We got to follow the way the Lord has for us here, and this stuff is not it. But with all that being said, Christ is winning. He is building his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Until next time, this is the Postmillennial Man.